Have you ever looked out at a spectacular view of an expanse of stars in a night sky, a mountaintop view, or perhaps a hawk soaring above, and thought to yourself, damn, that's just so majestic? The majestic is something we think of as epic and usually something rare and spectacular out in nature. But did you know that you can actually feel majesty within yourself? In this episode, we're going to be talking about what majesty in the spiritual realm is and how we can start to feel that way in our everyday. And after the discussion, we get to the most important part. The group frequency calibration associated with this episode is where the frequency work happens and where change actually occurs. So be sure to listen to that. Without releasing distortion patterns targeted by the GFC, the change you want will be more difficult to attain because you haven't addressed the root of the issue. If you like this episode, please help us out by hitting the like button and leaving a comment below. It helps us get our content to more people like you. My name is Karen Cheong, and today in Mastering Your World Through Frequencies, we're talking about accessing majesty.
When we were in Scotland, you talked about the seat of majesty. This was near the end of the retreat.
Yeah.
And we didn't take a lot of time to discuss or go deeper into that, what that actually means.
Yeah.
I mean, I have my ideas of what I think it means.
Yeah.
But it would be really lovely if you could talk a little bit more about what the seat of majesty means for us as people on this planet and how that relates to frequency level for us. Or,
Yeah.
Can you do that?
I think so. In that retreat, it was epic because we were able to clarify the feminine and able to clarify the masculine. And then with these two clarified aspects, I guess, of ourselves, we were able to drop through the void and then touch the Christ consciousness, to embody that Christ consciousness, even for just a few seconds for some people, for minutes for others. And that level of resonance is really high.
Okay, I need to stop you there because that's a lot in itself.
Yeah.
So, can you talk about what that kind of felt like?
Yeah. So it's funny because when you entitle a retreat something as bold as, the lost treasure of the Christ consciousness, rediscovering the Magdalene frequency, it's kind of a bold statement because it presumes that you can actually do it. And, I never know what's going to happen on this retreat. I just feel called and I know, okay, this is what we're meant to do. I don't know what that means exactly. I don't know if we're going to be successful, but this is what we're here to do as a group, not just for ourselves, but really for the collective. Because that vibration of the Christ consciousness is much higher in resonance than this dimensional order. It really is about a love that is not human. So meaning it's love for everything as it is.
Yeah.
It is also much higher in resonance in the sense that not only is it love, which is like the kind of minimum threshold of it, it is so much more expansive and so much more highly resonant in the sense that you have a much greater feeling sense of being connected to the one. And so that was something that we got to feel or experience or be aware of in different ways, depending on who you were. But when you get to hold that resonance in the embodiment, it means that it's seated in you, and so that others can start to entrain to that resonance also in their physical bodies.
Okay, so I have a question.
Yeah.
Because you're pretty famous for saying that we're always connected.
Yes.
We've never not been.
Yes.
So is that not the same for the Christ consciousness? Is that something that we kind of actively have to pursue?
Yeah. So the Christ consciousness is always there. It has infinitely been there. Mm-hmm. The thing is, we aren't or haven't been vibrating high enough to access it. Okay? So it's not that it's not accessible. It is if you have a high enough frequency resonance.
Right.
So it's always been there, like you said. And it's always been part of the one. It's just that as humans in this level of consciousness that we have been in with the distortion we've had, we haven't been clear enough or high enough in our resonance to be able to embody it. So people have touched it, right? Like people have experienced it. There was a being known as the Christ that existed in the earth plane. He embodied that consciousness like very profoundly. And so what we're doing is in training to the same resonance. I'm not saying we are the Christ. I did not say that. Okay?
Are you sure?
There's no second coming from over here. Yeah, no, I didn't say that. What I said was he embodied that consciousness, like to the core of his being.
So the man embodied that Christ consciousness, frequency, resonance.
Yes.
And so that's what maybe before his time came here to show us that
exactly.
it's possible.
That it's possible.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So he was the one who seeded that resonance. And now others have done the same thing. And it's important because as more and more of us do that, then it becomes more and more possible for others to entrain to that same resonance in the embodiment.
Yeah.
Right. So just to make this really clear, it's a consciousness that, people call the Christ consciousness because that's the consciousness he embodied.
Yeah.
Okay. So I just want to make that really clear to separate it from the being who was known as the Christ. Hi, guys. I hope you're loving our conversation. Our discussions are designed to empower you to transform your life and the lives of the people around you. So please hit the subscribe button because it helps us to expand our reach and to empower more people. Okay, let's get back to it.
And the Mary Magdalene that came into that, how did that fit in?
Yeah, so she's the feminine aspect of the Christ consciousness.
Oh, wait now. That's where you need that little thing that happens in video clips where they're going, rewind, and you see it again.
Yeah, exactly.
So she was the feminine aspect of the Christ consciousness?
So the Christ consciousness itself is neutral. Right? It has no gender. It's just a consciousness.
Yeah.
But then we're human, and then we have things called gender and also like aspects of ourselves that are masculine and feminine, right? So Jesus of Nazareth, the man, embodied it in the masculine.
Right.
She embodied it in the feminine.
Ah, okay. Yes. So that's why together. Oh, wow. What is the importance of that when they're together?
Yeah. So because we're human and we have male and female and then also masculine and feminine, there is so much distortion around both. I mean, I don't think it's hard to see that in the world. Lots of distortion in both the masculine and the feminine. So these are aspects within ourselves, okay, irrespective of the physical body you're in, like what the sex you are.
Yeah.
So when you start to clarify the feminine and the masculine aspect, they can come into harmony with each other, okay? And then as they unify, you can then be of a high enough resonance to access that Christ consciousness. So that's what it was about.
Okay, so I'm a woman, just to talk me through it.
Yeah.
I'm a woman and I'm working on my stuff. I'm clearing my distortions. I'm hopefully raising my frequency resonance.
Yeah.
And so when I tap into that, are you saying then I only tap into the Magdalene frequency or the Christ consciousness, or can I actually tap into both?
You tap into both because they come into union. In order to access that consciousness at this time, you have to have clarity in both the feminine and the masculine aspect because it's really about harmony between the two.
Right.
And that wholeness, that interplay in clarity between the two in order to access the neutrality of a consciousness. It has no gender.
Got you, the key word being neutrality.
Yeah, that's right.
And I can't reach that neutrality until I've actually done it inside.
Exactly.
Got you. So now, let's just say your group did this in Scotland, right? The group did this. And were they able to hold it or like, was it something they just tapped into and then they came away from it? Or did it happen like that? You tapped into it, you came away. You tapped into it, you came away. And each time it was just getting a little bit higher.
Yeah.
And then they were able to hold that, embody it?
Yeah. So that's exactly what we did. We just tapped into it bit by bit. And our resonance kept rising. And we were really supported in the physical places that we were in. And there was just this huge bump in our frequency resonance as a mastermind. Now, the thing is...
I have to say, such a huge bump that you changed the weather. I mean, we don't need to get into it, but you literally had sunny, scorching weather for the whole time you were there.
Exactly. Right? In every place we went to. So it was like the sun followed us around the island, which was kind of amazing.
It's great confirmation.
Exactly. Because in other parts of the island, it was raining. As it typically does in Scotland, probably more so this past year than ever before. And the wonderful thing is not only did we get scorching sun, but we also got rainbows all over the place, which was kind of amazing.
Stunning.
And this beautiful confirmation as well. So there are different people who are in this mastermind. I don't exclude it. So it's not like you have to have done X, Y, and Z, and therefore you can then participate.
Yeah.
Whoever felt called came on this journey. So they knew it within themselves, and they were like, I must go. For whatever reason, I don't even know exactly what we're going to be doing. I kind of have a sense of it, but I must go.
Yeah.
And so for different people, they're at different levels of resonance. You know, some of them have done more frequency work. Some of them have done the Limitless Potential Mastermind. Some of them have done advanced retreats.
Yeah.
Some of them have done all of it. So all of this comes down to not whether you've done a lot of frequency work, but it comes down to your vibrational level, your frequency resonance.
Yeah.
So however high your frequency resonance is what dictates whether or not you can embody that resonance, because that means that your physical body can support that very high resonance, meaning your physical body is also vibrating high enough that it can maintain that resonance, right?
Yes.
So it's not just happening at the level of the field, at the level of consciousness for yourself. It's actually happening in your embodiment. And so I would say a good number of the people there are still today living that change. Their lives have changed, what's showing up for them, how they experience life, how they're able to manifest, how much they're able to hold that resonance. You know, all that stuff has changed because, as you said, they're embodying it, you know, more at a higher level. Now, did some people touch that resonance and come back to a lower resonance? Yeah, because we're human. So it's not like everyone sustained it 100% and all floating around there in the Christ consciousness resonance. I think more people have more access to it and they live it more, and other people less so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they'll remember. So would an analogy be something like, so they become like a tuning fork?
Yeah.
So when they go home, they're like, it's that frequency that the tuning fork's emitting?
Yeah, and that's why this work is so important, because even if people had the experience where they were there, they had the magic of it, they felt shifted, etc., and then when they got home, they were able to hold it less, okay, than others, for example, who were able to like shift lots of things in their lives. That tuning of fork effect that you mentioned has happened. Yeah. It's already rippled out into the oneness, and it's rippled out like into the physical location that they are. Okay. So to me, that's spectacular because not only is that resonance rippling out, it's the resonance embodied, right? It's not just out there at the level of consciousness where we kind of can access it, but kind of can't. It's actually in the humanness, which is important for others to be able to entrain to it and also to rise, even though they may not know exactly what's happening.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, it sounds amazing, but I still need to come back to the initial question. Yeah. Where does the seat of Majesty come in then? And what does that mean for us at the human level? And I know this is a lot of questions. And at the frequency resonance that we're aiming for or holding or, Yeah.
So the beautiful thing about all of our retreats that we give at Spherical Luminosity is I am not aware of what the end outcome will be. Yeah. Like I'm not like, okay, well, at the end, we'll all have experienced X, Y, and Z plus a bonus. I mean, that's not typically how the retreats work. We're all in surrender to service to the highest level order vibration. And so whatever happens, happens. Yeah. And what's amazing about the masterminds that have formed for these retreats so far is they really are in this depth of surrender in service to the highest order. So what happened in Scotland, which was unanticipated for me, is that a frequency resonance came in that I wasn't expecting. Yeah. Okay. Now, I often talk about them as color because color is a frequency resonance. Yeah. Right? It's just something we associate with as humans, right? If I say it's frequency resonance 1,522, you're going to be like, I don't know what that means. But if I say imagine the color blue, you're like, okay, great. Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah. I know I can understand what that means. Yeah. So the resonance of the Magdalene, to me, is a very, very light blue, very clear, very light blue to me. And so it has a very specific color. And what I wasn't expecting was when we came into this unified state of the clarified masculine, the clarified feminine, this gold appeared. And I wasn't expecting that. And that might not sound like a big deal. You're like, okay, well, whatever, it's the color gold, that's nice. But that resonance has a very specific like feeling. Yeah. And a very specific vibration. And it really is the beginning of the seat of Majesty. Because in that gold, it is so brilliant. In it is the memory of the magnificence that you are, the glory that you are, that you truly co-create your everything, your reality, and the spectacularness of it. Yeah. And it's not from like an ego mind perspective, like, I am so amazing. You know what I mean? It's not about that. Yeah. It really, truly is the experience of self as glorious. And when you are in that seat of majesty, for me, it's the sense that you recognize your authority to co-create everything. And that you don't have to like earn it because you're not enough. And you don't have to like, you know what I mean, do things to diminish yourself. It's really about this acceptance of the gloriousness of who you are and what you can create, and your ability to have others entrained to you, you know, to share that resonance of that same feeling of ourselves in majesty, because we don't think of ourselves as majestic. You know what I mean? Like we have these ideas in our history and in our stories of like, you know, majesty being royalty, for example. Yeah. Right? These elevated humans that have a lot of power and a lot of money and have title and it's inherited. But I don't mean it like that at all. I mean a majesty, like that kind of splendor that when you it's like irrevocable, and I often will associate it with like nature, you know? If you've ever looked out like from a mountaintop and seen something really spectacular in terms of like mountain ranges and the sky and all this, it can feel like you're witnessing majesty because it's so spectacular. That's what I mean. Yeah. When I'm hearing you talk and in, you know, those moments where you can tap into it, I always describe it like the grace in the moment. So is that kind of similar? Yeah. And there's so few words to describe it. Yeah. You know, and the thing is, words for us have a certain resonance and a certain meaning. Yeah. And it's really, like I keep using the same words over and over again because we don't have that many words for that resonance. Yeah. We haven't experienced it that much as humans. We have a lot of words for, you know, darkness. Oppression and fear and worry and stress and all, you know, abuse and all these words. But we don't really have that many words for glory. Because this is not glory of like the battlefield. No. You know, it's not about victory in the sense of like me vanquishing another. It has nothing to do with that at all. It has to do with the glory of the divine embodied in you that you get to uniquely express. And we often don't feel like that. Yeah. Okay, so that's a great explanation. And I just now would like to understand then, because the context is that you did this in Scotland with a group of 45 people, and you were all working together and doing the work through those 10 or 14 days. Yeah. Now, what I'm understanding is that you're going to have this workshop in San Miguel. Now, there could be a whole pile of new people that come for that. Yeah. And now what happens? You're going to show these people how to do that again? Yeah. In just that little workshop? Is that even possible? I mean, it's exciting. It's really exciting. Yeah. So what's happening with frequency work is as people are doing more and more of this work at the quantum level, the group is getting stronger and stronger. So even if you're brand spanking new and you're like, I don't really know what you all are doing, which happened, by the way. There was one woman who was in our mastermind who had never heard of me, had never heard of Spherical Luminosity, wasn't even sure what the heck we were all doing there, except that it had something to do with the feminine, and she felt called to join. Yeah. Like literally, that was how this woman stepped into this mastermind. And she did freaking spectacular. So it doesn't matter how much you conceptually know. It doesn't matter how many years you've been doing your spiritual practice, how long you've been releasing your distortion patterns. It doesn't matter, honestly. If you're called to really step into this mastermind that's vibrating very high, to really unveil the seat of majesty, you'll just entrain up to the group because the group is strong enough. So you as a resonance, like you as a being, want to move faster. In terms of your vibrational speed, you want to vibrate faster because the faster you vibrate, everything changes in terms of what you feel, in terms of your spiritual journey, in terms of what you're able to perceive, your intuition, how fast your manifestation is, how much abundance you experience, how much like grace you have in your life, like how much magic, all that stuff has to do with how high your frequency resonance is. So when you step into a mastermind that is committed to do their inner work and really to rise in their frequency resonance and clarify their connection or their awareness of their connection, because the connection is always there, to pure source, you will be pulled into that resonance very quickly without you really even having to try. You just have to like put your butt in the seat, basically.
Yeah.
Or participate online, and your resonance will entrain to them. And it's extraordinarily fast. The first time I saw how fast it could be was about 1.5 years ago now. We were in Austin, Texas, giving spiritual alchemy. What was it? Transmuting chaos into power, which was such a profound and important skill set at this time where there's so much polarity. And for that event, we'd invited people to come and bring +1.
Yeah.
Whoever it was, partner, child, parent, whatever, it didn't matter, friend. And so people were being brought who had done nothing. They were like, why am I here other than the fact that you're dragging me? Yeah, so that's who the people were. And literally, we started on a Friday afternoon, and by Sunday morning, everyone in that mastermind was vibrating at the quantum level. Everybody. And they felt it. They knew it.
Yeah.
So it was extraordinary how fast it can happen, and it's gotten faster and faster since.
Yeah, and I would love to add into that as well, because I know there'll be some people out there. Well, what happens to that strong mastermind when somebody that hasn't done the work joins it? Does that pull the resonance down, right?
Yeah.
So go on, give us that answer.
No, it doesn't, actually, because the mastermind itself is so strong. And also, myself as a person has been rising in my resonance.
Yeah.
And I'm the one guiding, let's just say.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
So the resonance that I hold is important too, because it sets the tone for the whole mastermind. And the mastermind entrains up.
Yeah.
And so whether you want to or not, right, your resonance is going to get pulled up.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, will the people who've done nothing have a little bit more detox after, or more integration or reorganization later to deal with as distortion patterns come up? Because why do distortion patterns come up after an event? They come up because here you are in this very, very high resonance, right? You leave the event, here you are, like very, very high resonance. And then the version of you that was there before had a lower resonance. And those things, that resonance of whatever it was, disempowerment, victimhood, scarcity, worry, stress, whatever, and that other very high resonance have a really hard time coexisting.
It's incongruent,
It's
right?
incongruent. So what has to happen is your higher self is like, well, I want to stay at this resonance. It feels better to me. It's faster in resonance, or higher in resonance, I should say. So I want to have more of that. So what I have to do is release these heavier things.
Yeah.
And that stuff can be hard when you're releasing it, because it just gets really loud when it leaves your field.
Yeah.
So that can be what happens after a retreat. But so far, everybody who's come to a retreat and been sort of a newbie has said that their life has changed so much that for the better, that even though initially it might have been a little bit challenging, they were willing, because they're like, I want the new thing. I don't want to be in the old life that I was in.
Yeah,
or
they don't resist that change.
Exactly. They want the change.
Yeah.
And they also know they can do it. You
Yeah.
know, it's funny what happens when you come on this retreat. You have this weird sense that you're like, oh, I can do that. I can weather that storm. I can transcend that the discomfort of it.
Yeah.
And I want it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I noticed that a lot more people are sleeping through their detox.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. You know, in the early days, it was like really crunchy for people.
Yeah.
Now everybody's like, I'm so tired. I just need to sleep.
Exactly.
Like, oh, well done.
Exactly. They just sleep and then it's done. And then, like I said, they get to that change that they don't even know exactly what it is that they're searching for, because you can't predict it with your mind.
No.
You really can't. And if you try to, you'll hijack the process.
I'd love to tell a story.
Yeah, please do.
One of the clients that was in Scotland, she returned home and she'd had a troubled past, shall we say, in that her mum had died and her mum's inheritance was hijacked by the stepdad.
Okay.
And it was a wicked stepdad. Let's just say it that way. And, you know, for many years, she was only getting like a minimal amount. She had to work to pay for her rent. It wasn't enough for that, you know. And so she decided that for the rest of her life, she was just going to be self-sufficient. She knew she was never going to see a penny of her mum's inheritance, even though her mum had always promised it to the kids.
Okay.
But the stepdad on the deathbed of the mum had hijacked it.
Okay.
And so she goes to Scotland and she had the most amazing experience.
Yeah. And this, by the way, is somebody who has not done that much frequency work.
Yeah. Exactly. And she went back and she was glowing. And within a week, I believe that's the right time, within a week, she received an email from the people that were managing her mum's inheritance that the money was now being shared to the siblings and her, to the point now where she can quit her job and she can, for many years, do nothing if she wants.
Wow.
I know.
Wow.
She's like, I cannot believe the change that has happened. I'm in shock. She said, if I try to fathom out how this happened, I'll go insane. So the first thing she did, she registered for the San Miguel retreat.
Yeah, well, that's amazing. And that's the thing. I mean, it's not like she went on the Scotland retreat thinking, gee, my end outcome is I'm going to receive my mother's inheritance that has been stolen from me. You know, but then she had this experience. And it's funny to me, we can always think we want certain things, but the magic is when they're unexpected and they resolve in a way that you weren't, you could never have fathomed, you know, or even imagined. And the thing is about the San Miguel retreat and about the seat of Majesty is that as you're in this resonance of this gold, you start to experience and amplify the sacred of everything.
Yeah.
Because, you know, there's this weird thing that happens in spiritual movements, like this thing, you know, like cacao right now is a big deal. The cacao is sacred. The whatever is sacred and the whatnot and the plant. And I'm not, look, everything is sacred.
Yeah, everything from this planet is sacred.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, nothing's more special than the other.
Exactly. So it's all a reflection and an expression of the divine.
Yeah.
So of course it's sacred.
Yeah. Hello.
Yeah, no, it's funny. But the thing is, we don't experience it as that. We always just think it's this thing, and we kind of rush through life, and we don't even think of ourselves as sacred.
I'm in shock because how could anybody rush through a cup of cacao? I'm sorry. It's very sacred.
Fiona has this obsession with cacao.
Cacao and a cuppa.
Exactly.
Take a moment, people.
Exactly. So whatever the thing is, we get so preoccupied as humans as to what we want and what we don't have. Most of our focus is on what we lack. So we totally miss the experience of the sacred. And it's really time for us to be in that resonance where we get to experience the sacredness of everything and our own magnificence and the magnificence of everything. Because, you know, we have focused so long as humanity in our lack. And it's time for us to shift into something far more incredible. And I'm not suggesting that you should, you know, wander off with rose-colored glasses and pretend everything is wonderful when it's not.
Bypassing.
Exactly.
Not that.
No. It's when, like, for real, like, in all of the cells of your body, you're like, life is freaking incredible. And I get to have this experience.
Yeah.
And you get to have that experience more and more and more and more, especially as your frequency resonance rises. And then, depending on who you are, you'll probably be called to share that with others.
Nice.
Yeah.
Talking about sharing, what's the GFC going to be then?
So in this GFC, I'm going to help you release distortion patterns that keep you from recognizing that grandeur. So it's really a preparation for San Miguel. And there's so much that keeps us from being in that space, and there's a lot in the ego mind. So this is an introductory GFC, but it will start to help give you more space from that aspect of you that keeps you mired in the perspective of the mundane.
Lucky us. Let's go.
Cool. So for those of you who would like to gain some distance from the perspective of the ego mind, which keeps you mired in the mundane, then I strongly recommend listening to the group frequency calibration associated with this episode. And if you know someone who would enjoy listening to this, please share it with them. We're about to start the group frequency calibration, or GFC, where we actually do the frequency work and change is catalyzed. To get to the GFC, click on the square that'll appear on the right or the link in the description below. It's time to bring in a new experience, a new consciousness, and a new world. Let's rise together.